Today I'm going to try and run a Lipo on it. From my understanding, the ESCs, they don't say they can run up to 3S, but I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to also limit my throttle to only 50% to save the motors as well. And also going to get here I have some adapters so I can run my regular 3S Lipo, which I run on my 19 Wraith. I'm pretty sure those ESCs don't have a low voltage alarm, so I also gone ahead and actually got one. This is pretty basic, generic brands. There's a voltage checker, and you can also set a cutoff voltage per cell as well, which is pretty handy. So yeah, let's go ahead and see if we blow up the ESC. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and go to my dual rate and actually turn my throttle down to 50% just to be safe. And go ahead and plug this in. Let's see if it goes up in smoke. Just as a safety precaution, I'm going to go ahead and open up the battery box, or the receiver box here, to make sure that nothing's overheating and nothing is catching on fire. There we have it. So we're going to go ahead and connect up our 3S Lipo. We shall see if anything goes wrong. So far so good. The ESCs seem to be on. Seems to work fine on a 3S Lipo so far. Don't seem to be getting warm. So for now, I think I'll just run it with it open to make sure that nothing goes horribly wrong. So far, nothing seems unusually warm. The ESCs are warm, a little bit warm, and that's just how they usually are, even on the nickel metal hydride. So for now, I'll still run with the box open, just so if it does go up, I can quickly take the body off and pull the Lipo and make sure that doesn't catch on fire. So here we have the voltage checker slash voltage alarm. This way. Ooh, it's extremely loud. It basically cycles through your voltages, and then the voltage for each cell. This cell is almost empty. And then here you can set your voltage cutoff. I usually go around 3.3 volts, and basically just leave it in there, and when the voltage drops below that, then the alarm will go off. So let's go for a run. I have the Lipo in. I've been running for 5 minutes off camera. Seems to be doing fine. Full throttle feels a lot quicker, even though it's technically not quite the same full voltage as nickel metal, since this is 50% throttle 3S. But it's already been a huge improvement, and the stock system seems to be holding up fine. So for now, I'm just going to leave them in. I will have to say, it is already a lot more fun than the fully charged nickel metal. Even on this, there's like a 40% Lipo. So as you can see here, snow here is really deep, but this guy just keeps on floating on top, and it's absolutely brilliant. One thing with these particular tracks is it really doesn't like the ice. I think there's some ice here. You can kind of see the tracks have no traction on ice, which is sort of given, but it might be nice to 3D print some tracks and add some studs in. It is not invincible, however. It can get stuck, especially it likes to get high centered on like icy bits, and if the snow's too deep at an incline, well, maybe not this time, but sometimes it can get itself dug in, and like any tired vehicle would. But overall, crawling this thing, if you can call it that, is actually quite fun. But there is a few caveats, especially when you're the two different drive motors can get a bit confusing as one of the tracks in stall and you get stuck, even though technically it's not entirely stuck. But a bit of wheel speed usually solves it, and it's plenty of fun. I will say the low speed control on these ESCs are not great. The startup is rather poor, and there's not a lot of torque to it either, but it is still a lot of fun, especially during the winter months when you can't run any of the other trucks. So as you can see, when you're outside, the track actually shrinks quite a bit, and this is pretty tight, and I'd say actually this is way too tight, and it's causing quite a bit of resistance in the drivetrain. I'm probably going to go ahead and loosen it by maybe 5mm or so. Maybe that's a bit too much, but for as you can see, with this in the cold, the track is just way too tight. At the end of our run here, and the motors don't feel too hot, but there is one thing, is that the right motor here is noticeably hotter than the left one, and also as you can see from the startup how there's a difference in startup. I am chalking that actually up to perhaps the variance of the ESC, or perhaps the ESC slash the motor timings, since one motor is going clockwise and the other one's going counterclockwise, so it could be that. But I checked everything. The drivetrain seems to be the same loose slash stiffness on each side, so I'm just going to say that it's the timing or the ESC variance in manufacturing that's causing that difference in heat, but it's definitely something to look into. Another thing is, out of the box, other than the really tight wheel nut, one of the gear mesh between the pinion and spur, if you like, one of them was actually too tight. So yeah, definitely needs a bit of work out of the box. Also, now that we're back in a warm, you can see there is quite a bit more slack into the track. So again, when you're out in the cold, the track will shrink. So I'm actually there's a adjustable slider here on the rearmost road wheel. So I'm gonna get that road wheel and move it forwards just a tiny bit, just to give it more slack. So when it gets out in the cold and the track shrinks and tightens up, it is not going to add any extra resistance to the drivetrain. So back now with the first run on the Lipo. This is a 3S Lipo, and you know what, the ESC handled it. To be fair, I did still leave my throttle dual rate at 50%, so that is mainly just to make sure the motors are running in safe conditions, but turns out the ESCs can handle 3S, at least for input voltage. It is able to take the 3S. Sustained throttle, however, I'm not sure. Probably these motors will not hold up to 3S, so that's why I've left them my throttle at 50% at max. But other than that, it performed a lot better, obviously, compared to the stock battery. A lot better punch, and also, again, a runtime, obviously. This is a 5200 compared to the 2200, and also high voltage as well. So definitely recommend it as a Lipo upgrade, but again, remember to use the Lipo alarm. The stock system's actually really serviceable, especially with the Lipo. Initially I thought it was a bit underpowered, but these 3-cylinder motors actually surprised me. The verdict is, the ESCs can handle 3S, and definitely don't run it at full throttle on 3S. Probably just throw a 2S Lipo in there, but in a pinch, 3S will work, but not recommended to run it full time on 3S. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.